ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ Nirmala can start with vegetarianism is an expression of ahimsa.
Hari Om, yes. Vegetarianism is an expression of ahimsa. Vegetarianism is an example of the application of the value for ahimsa. Many arguments in favor of a vegetarian diet can be made, but the basic argument supporting non-flesh eating is simply ahimsa. In India, where there are more vegetarians than anywhere else, in the world, vegetarianism is squarely based on the Vedic mandate, himsam na kuryat, do not cause injury. Why is more himsa involved in eating an egg than an eggplant or a steak than a pumpkin? Every life form requires food of some kind. One life form feeds upon another. What is tragedy to a bird is dinner to a cat. This being the case, why should not a human being also eat meat? Since a human being is not in the same choiceless category as the canary-eating cat, he or she cannot use the cat's example to justify his food habits. For the cat and other non-human life forms, choosing what to have for dinner is not a problem. They select the proper food by instinct. They come pre-programmed with their particular dietary knowledge. They need only to locate it. This is not so with a human being. He or she is a self-conscious being endowed with a free will. This means he or she can choose from many means to fulfill his or her ends, including the basic need, food. Since he or she is not pre-programmed, a human being must choose the kind of food he or she eats. Several arguments other than ahimsa are offered to support the position that vegetarianism is a better diet than meat eating. There is evidence that human dental and digestive systems are more suitable for a fruit, grain, vegetable diet than for meat. There is statistical evidence that vegetarians, such as the Seventh-day Adventists, have fewer degenerative diseases and live long, enjoying a more vigorous old age than do their meat-eating neighbors. However persuasive these arguments may be, the fundamental argument in favor of vegetarianism is the value of ahimsa.
That was pretty straightforward. I think we can go to the next session. If there is no doubt. Prasunna ji, can you continue the next?
All creatures seek to live a harm-free life. It is obvious that all living beings have a value for life. Anything that is alive tries to stay alive, including plants and very simple life forms. However, it is also obvious that all beings do not seem to have the same relative level of awareness of life, the same conscious ability to perceive threats to life or to struggle to preserve life. Creatures in the animal kingdom are closer than plants to the human beings in their awareness of threats to life and in their struggle to stay alive, if their behavior indicates anything. Mobile creatures such as animals, birds, fish run away from me when they know I am trying to catch them to part. When I do catch them, they struggle and scream. Therefore, I cannot but know that they do not want to be hurt, that they want to live. No mobile creature wants to be my dinner. Since I have been given a free will to exercise the choice of food which I eat to sustain my life, I must find some norm to guide me in choosing that food. The gift of free will carries with it a responsibility to follow an ethical norm in exercising that will. What is the common sense dharmic norm for choice of my food? The tells me, Himsam na kuryat, do not cause injury. My common sense tells me that I should not make somebody my dinner since I do not want to be somebody's dinner. Who or what is a somebody? Those living creatures who have the means to run away from me and my equipment, who scream in protest or struggle against me, are more of a somebody than plants. Plants are rooted in one place and quietly yield their fruits for my food, often without surrendering their lives. Anyway, food chain starts with plant life. There is no other food except vegetarian. Even animals have to eat vegetarian food and then they get killed for meat. Non-vegetarian meal but not non-vegetarian food. Food being vegetarian.
We can have discussion in the end, I think. Since these are pretty straightforward, I think we can just read and then have a discussion after 10 or 15 minutes. Uh, Solveig, please continue the next.
Hariom, can you scroll a little? Yes, please. Thank you. Plant food is the rational and ethical choice for human diet. In view of the research indicating that a balanced vegetarian diet is complete and healthy, I cannot justify the use of meat in my diet on the basis of nutritional need. If I choose to eat meat, that choice is entirely my personal preference. To fulfill a preference is fine, if there is no overriding ethical reason for not fulfilling it. In the case of eating meat, there is a strong common sense, ethical reason for not fulfilling such a preference. Since I do not want to be an animal's dinner, I should not make an animal my dinner. Plant food rather than meat is the choice because many plants seem designed to give up their produce as food for other life forms without surrendering their own lives. Another reason is that even when the use of plant food does destroy the plants, they appear to have less conscious appreciation on the threat or harm to themselves than animals do. If I insist on including meat in my diet to raise such a decision to ethical status, I would have to put myself on an equal footing with other carnivorous animals. To be on an equal footing, I should hunt and kill my prey barehanded without weapons, thus exposing myself to the possibility of being their dinner. If I am not willing to do so, the use of animals for food will be unethical. It will conflict with my half value for not hurting. My failure to risk the possibility of suffering the same result reveals that I have such a half value.
Now I will continue with this.
I shall continue?
No,
I you continue, yes, thanks.
Ahimsa requires sensitivity and alertness. The value of ahimsa requires alertness and sensitivity in all areas of my life. It is value that finds expression in my attitude towards plants as well as toward human beings and animals. Wanton destruction of plant life indicates a lack of sensitivity for the value of ahimsa. Ahimsa is a value for not destroying or damaging any part of creation, a creation of which I too am a part. I do not casually crush strip, uproot, or cut down plants. With regard to my fellow human beings, I watch for those words or acts or even thoughts that may be hurtful. I develop a finer appreciation for the feelings of others. I come to see beyond my own needs to the needs of those around me. I treat all things and beings with sensitivity and appreciate their common existence with me. With such an attitude, I become an alert, observant person with a sensitive, saintly mind that is ready to hear and appreciate the truth of Vedanta. Ahimsa is an important value among the values enumerated for gaining self-knowledge. Now we can discuss from the beginning. So, Pujya Swamiji has used vegetarianism as an example to stress and explain the value of ahimsa. Anyway, vegetarianism is I would say vegetarianism is the best expression of ahimsa in the physical form. Like as Swamiji said, eating plant. Swamiji has actually made a very good argument against all those excuses meat-eating people make. They'll still make excuses, but all those excuses they make to eat animals, and they make to compare eating of plants with that of eating of animals has been destroyed by Pujya Swamiji in this. Basically, and even Hindus actually justify this. Hindus, or even some new Vedantic teachers justify their non-vegetarian habits so that they are just making excuses so that they can still enjoy the taste. They are basically kind of addicted or enslaved to their raga, their raga towards it's a binding desire. They cannot or have they want their tongue to be satisfied more than the value they have for their they have for the more than the value of ahimsa, more than dharma. They give importance to their taste buds. Basically, that's why people actually eat non-vegetarian food, at least when they are aware. Where we can say certain communities and cultures are very less aware regarding this value, not so. Yeah, as Pujya Swamiji said, everyone should know, because when we kill that animal, it protests and all that. Yes, that is there. So, but some communities seem to be less aware of it than the others are. So, at least we who claim to be educated and so-called modern people, at least we should we stay away from eating non-vegetarian food. And I'm not suggesting PETA-like activism. They are active more against some relationship between humans and animals than where actually animals are being killed. They never question KFC. They never protest in front of KFC or McDonald's. They are busy protesting against Jallikattu or some other Hindu festival that is being, or maybe elephants in Puram or some other Hindu festival. They are busy. So we can clearly see whether their commitment is to ahimsa or whether their commitment is to something else. So that is one part of the first part should be in one of his lectures on that the niyamas in Hindu dharma. That there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas in Hindu dharma. So you can find it in I think it is in there in Hindu online website. You can Google and check or I'll post a link later. There is a lecture by our Swami Paramarthananda ji, where Swamiji where Swamiji talks about ahimsa. Uh, he actually where he talks about ahimsa, he says that the um, most important observation is how to observe this ahimsa in our life. The first, or ahimsa or any value, any yamanima, the most important part is first applying it physically. That is, by not hurting anyone physically, not hurting any animal, whether for satisfying our taste buds or just for fun. In America, they have hunting as a sport. It is really disgusting when I see these people, very rich people actually. They have food. They all are already non-vegetarians. They eat lots of food. They have lots of money. They have cars, this that and whatnot. They have everything we don't have. Yet they go to these forests and start hunting animals just for their pleasure. That is allowed in United States, and an organization from there now challenging our cultural practices. That's quite hypocritical. Anyway, but even people have gone even to that extent, not just for food, like not just like a carnivorous animal. They are gone even worse, that they want to kill animals just for fun, for their pleasure of sporting, and they post pictures on it on with the dead animal standing on top of it or keeping one leg above it, and they put it on Facebook or Instagram or wherever it is possible, and they think it is very great. Actually, as Puji Swamiji says, if one is so one has to compare himself with a carnivorous animal, he should be leaving the gun aside. He should be leaving other weapons aside, and he should be fighting with bare hands. And then, if he wins, then okay, there is some. I'm not saying it is good, but there is some. At least you are like we can compare you with an animal to some extent. But these people, they go with all advanced weapons and they kill an animal. They think it somehow, they think it boosts their ego, but and they think that it is something great. They have accomplished something great. So who cannot kill an animal with all those advanced weapons? They just have their claws and their strength to fight with, and we have all these weapons, and also we are more intelligent and more evolved than them. So it is quite easy to get them killed off. So it is not a big accomplishment. So we have gone even to that extent in against ahimsa. That is what happens in a rights-based society, or a society based on individualism and uh, what we say, yeah, based on individualism rather than values and duties. So we have to we have to turn more towards the values, like ahimsa. And then, so the most important part is fiscal part, or the most important, or the one you have to implement first is the fiscal part. Then you have to, so it's um, many of us may be vegetarians. We have to focus on things like while walking, we are not stepping on some kind of small insect or animal. We should be very careful. We should not be too careless. We should be very careful. We should start valuing. Many vegetarians I have seen are just vegetarian because of their maybe religion. They don't actually understand why Veda says himsa na kurya. They just know that okay, my caste does not eat meat, or my family has been vegetarian for so many generations, so I am also a vegetarian. That's all. They they behave to animals worse than perhaps some of the non-vegetarians. So that is where we have to be careful. We have to be very careful with regarding to oh, what we like, how we treat insects or other small animals or beings uh, like that. Whether it is an ant or grasshopper, we should be very careful how any of our actions should not be hurtful or should not take their lives. So we need to build values for their life as well. Even the smallest among the insects. We need to do as best as we can. Then, as Pujaswami says, then we come to then we come to the verbal and mental part um, where we uh, where we try to not hurt others with our thoughts or even words, because we know that we don't want to be hurt by others' words or by others' thoughts. So uh, we don't want any hostile thoughts against us. So we have to know that the same applies. The same other people are also having the same uh, also want the same as we do, and we should be trying to do that as well. Like following ahimsa mentally and also verbally. The one thing that we can see that in Prashantji's Facebook page, he always says that he always asks people to avoid bad language or abusive language towards others. So that's a very good example of how we can improve ourselves in this regard. And or sometimes we just become angry and we just I do that. This is from my personal experience. I do sometimes get angry, and so I am hurt in some way, so I try to hurt some other people, or maybe because I am hurt by them, or I don't approve of some of their actions. I try to make very, whether it's in Facebook or some, I try to make some posts against them, hurtful to them. It could be hurtful to them. Sometimes it is not avoidable, but sometimes it is avoidable. Actually, we can talk with them, or we can somehow solve the issue, but yet I just try to hurt them because of my self-righteous attitude. We all have this kind of habits. When we are angry, we try to attack others, which could for to bring some change or something in them, which could have been actually communicated in a decent way, in a non-hurtful manner, and we could have uh, agreed with them. We could have helped them do it if they were actually doing something wrong, or we could have actually thought about it and think about it if whether they were actually wrong or whether I'm just projecting my hatred on them, because I'm just projecting my hatred and anger on them because I don't, for some reason, I don't like them, and everything they do appears wrong to me. We just want to, we can analyze all that and try to apply this value as much as possible. I think we are all in this, all in some part in this progress towards ahimsa. So we cannot try to improve in that part, that aspect. But on the other hand, where this ahimsa is misused, this like Gandhian and the Jain ahimsa, where actually we that is not actually ahimsa, because you cannot stand, you cannot give up your weapons and stand on the face of violence. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna asks Arjuna to pick up weapons and fight. You cannot, you have to, when it is uh, about dharma, we have to, if dharma is under threat, and or our, we cannot we cannot say that, okay, I am I want to be total ahimsa vadi person, and so I will not do anything. I will not protect the innocent. I will not protect dharma. I will just stand there um, and let whatever happen. So that is not ahimsa. So we have to keep that in mind as well. So this is a very complex topic. We have to uh, think about it, analyze, and have to think about it a lot, in my opinion, to actually get it. Please share any thoughts or any doubts or anything if you have. Please do.
Yeah, just a couple of things. One is like, about food habits and like people hunting for it. I'm like, I don't know much, but from whatever my understanding is, many parts, especially like US or even maybe other European country, I'm not sure, but definitely in US where it's very snowy, people hunt for food actually. Literally nothing can grow. It will be ice covered, so people usually they stay in remote, so they go to the forest and hunt the deers and eat them actually. So that one thing is also there. I don't know how exactly to categorize, like in the sense we cannot certainly, like at that cold temperature in our natural cells we cannot survive, we will freeze to
Hemanji,
death.
according as far as I understand, that generation has changed. Now
No,
food is available.
no, that is correct, Shamubai, but still many people here
Yeah, some people, but
still live like that actually, like
yeah, if that
yeah,
they are very poor and it is for their survival, that's a different matter. But the people I
not
talk,
poor, not need not be poor,
yeah,
it's kind of lifestyle which they want to
yeah,
maintain. So it's like they stay in that kind of areas like where it's kind of remote, so they
yeah, but
still hunt food for eating actually. So anyway,
yeah,
I was just thinking like whatever may be their lifestyle, what I'm trying to say is if you go
yeah. As
for
I
like
said, as I
mm,
said, there are some certain communities like that in tribals or the fishing community. There are exceptions like that. We have to, they have to slowly progress. Then we cannot force our ahimsa on them. As I said, there are tribal communities, fishing communities. We cannot go there into the fish market and say, okay, fine, ahimsa. You should all stop fishing now. That's not possible. Uh, that's not what our dharmic ahimsa is. That is either stupid Pettas ahimsa or Gandhian ahimsa or whatever that is.
yeah.
That's not our ahimsa. So such communities may exist in US or any country. But what I was saying is that sport hunting, the people who do sport hunting, who actually hunt these lions and giraffes, and they post pics on their uh, and they just they stuff their head, I think, and to show off in their house and do that. There are lots of people who do that. Actually, more than perhaps the communities that may be doing it for their survival. So there are lots of people and sport hunting is actually illegal in United States. That's a real problem that I cannot imagine how individualism can get worse than that. So that's what my point is. That, as Hemanji said, some communities do that for survival. I think with development and more facilities reaching those places, and I think they have to progress slowly through to um, a better lifestyle. But that it has to be slow, and we have to understand. We have to be understanding about them, as Hemanji suggested.
Yeah, that's
But
more
one thing, but
sorry, yeah.
yeah, please,
No, yeah,
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 please continue. Please continue.
absolutely. Like hunting for game, yeah, that's not at all good. I agree with that as well.
Yeah, and these communities, again, what is the difference in Dharmic culture? I can see is that these tribals may be hunting or in Kerala. There are some tribals that hunt and all that, but you see when an elephant comes to their area or some wild animal comes, they don't go and kill it like some others so-called modern people do. but rather they inform the forest authorities. They try to actually get it back to its wherever it came from, rather than trying to kill it. They are much more compassionate to animals than many of us, maybe most of us. Similar way, in the fishing community in my town has another aspect, which is they fast on certain days and they don't sell fish on certain days. Such habits are there in our dharmic culture. On in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, these communities are usually very much devoted to Murugan. So on the Shashti day, which is a fasting day for Murugan worshippers, so they fast on that day. They don't sell fish on that day. So these habits are changing because of extreme Christianization and secularization, and these are thought to be very stupid practices. Such fasting or things are thought to be very stupid, and they are encouraged to go out and fish all the throughout the year and all that. And another habit is that there is a breeding time for fish. There is a breeding time. In that time, these people never used to go for fishing, because that time such values are being practiced by them. That time fishing is actually not very good, so they avoid fishing in large time. But nowadays there are boats who go for trolling at that time, and this secularization has greatly affected our how the people actually lived in harmony with the nature, this, and practice these values even while they were following their traditional family profession of fishing or whatever. We have stories like that of, I think it was Dharma Vyada, of a butcher who was a great knowledgeable person despite of being a butcher. Animal sacrifice is a tough subject. I think we can have a separate session on it, because I'll say it shortly. Animal sacrifice, I would say, if avoidable, it is best to avoid. But it is still better than non-vegetarians. It is still better than eating from KFC or anything. You see, when you sacrifice an animal, you actually consume it. In Hinduism, it is so. Whether if you sacrifice an animal, you definitely eat it. You consume it. So what you are just doing is that you offer whatever you are eating to the Lord and then eat it. They are basically doing naivedya. We offer payasam or rice or other things to Ishvara, and then we all take it as Ishvara prasada. Similarly, these animals, those who do animal sacrifices, are consuming that too. So whatever you eat, you present to Lord and then eat, then consume as the prasada from Lord. It is always better. It is better than going to KFC or anything. So this way, so it is preferable to non-vegetarian. So and gradually we have to move from these tamasic practices as we grow. We have to move from these tamasic practices to a sattvic practice. But still, it is better than this mass slaughter and all that.
Yeah, about animal sacrifice, I think apart from that Naivedya part, like like some people do it for what do you call it as Shudra Shakti. I mean, like to gain dark power. Like I remember a story of Adi Shankaracharya. Actually, when he goes to Kanchi, Kamakshi, like there was so much sacrifices going on, animal sacrifices, that the goddess was very fierce. So looking at that, he talks to the people like who are doing all the Shudra Puja, like, please don't do this. The goddess is actually divine and she is a very gentle goddess. And due to all the sacrifices, you have made her like very angry. I mean, like in the sense, she has become very Raudra, like, she has become very fierce. Then actually they challenge him. No, this goddess is actually like Kali, like she is fierce and she needs the Bali, and she cannot do and we cannot do without doing it. So actually then Adi Shankaracharya does praying, or he does something, I don't exactly recall. So after that, they see the gentleness of the Devi's face. From that day forward, the kind of, the animal sacrifices there stopped. But I think still in many of the Kali temples, the animal sacrifices goes on. I think it's done more as part of, like, some people do it as part of gaining special powers, like they do their own shudra, like, dark magic kind of stuff. So for that also many people do animal sacrifices.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, that's so two aspects in what Hemant said. One is that the change has to come through helping the society to understand that um, convincing them in in a gentle and compassionate manner as Adi Shankaracharya did to convince them slowly to move to a sattvic practice. That is one thing. The second thing is that yes, there are lots of people who do it for Shudra pujas and all that, that dark magic and all that. Veda actually wants such people. Dark magic is always like a two-edged sword. It will definitely hit back at you in double force. No matter how much power or no matter how much people you hurt or how much enemies you finish, it will hit back at you with double or maybe 10 times powerful hit back. So their end is going to be very very bad actually. So yeah, that again these practices have to be stopped by taking dharma to them, taking the values of dharma and trying to bringing renaissance rather than trying to force ban like PETA or other organizations. And yeah, such practices also do exist. We have to acknowledge that such practices do exist, and the rate for end the practices is definitely not bad. But as Hemanji said, such practices do exist, and like Adi Shankaracharya did, we have to actually um, show a better way to them and kind of convince them to move to sattvic practices.
Yeah, I agree. Rightly said, Shemuji.
Okay. Okay, Prasunaji, I think we can close up here now. If anybody else has some point or something to say. Okay, okay, fine. So can we close it? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.